Took what Charles was talking about into even more historical perspective. I was 14 as in August 1991. The message reached us in pioneer camp in Western Ukraine that there are tanks on Red Square, that there is some kind of revolution or revolt. We didn't know much, but it was clear that something happened. And that was fundamental. That was the end of Soviet Union. The 69-year-long experiment in social order and ownership. It was actually brought around by a very powerful, one of the most influential thinkers of our time, Karl Marx. He brought out, at the end of the 19th century, a book called Das Kapital. And this book basically opened the struggle between classes, between capitalists and workers. And he said that, capitalists that own assets and own capital will exploit people and workers to the degree where it's going to be a revolution. And the new social era will begin. Well, and some people try to make it happen. Well, we had this revolution in 1917, and many people believed, it was a major, major milestone. It put end to the Russian monarchy, right? But unfortunately, this didn't work out. And it didn't work out because if everything belonged to everybody, then anything belonged to anybody. If the collective ownership is taken to such a degree that people don't care, they don't feel incentivized, they don't feel connected to what they are doing, because it's not theirs, right? It's not going to work. And, if you look back at the history of ownership, us as humanity, centuries, thousands long history, we went through the different twists, right? We started owning just what is around us, right? As we were the smart monkeys in the caves, this was it, right? Your cave, your stone knife, this is it, right? And from that period, we went into a very long period of our history where we used to own other people. But in fact, it's actually interesting that majority of people, 2/4 of people were owned by other people. Unimaginable today. Today we're in such a better place, right? We have access to assets, to wealth, to prosperity. Most of us, not all of us. And the most interesting transition happened with invention of share. Corporation. That was the beginning of collective ownership, where I could own something that is not around me, that I cannot control physically, right? It started with a Dutch West Indies company that used to control and colonize half of the world. And this shares, the concept of shares that is so natural and so obvious to us today, almost everybody. How many of you own share in any company? Raise your hand. Majority, right? So who is questioning this? Nobody. But how about these guys? How many of you own these guys? That's the difference. And this is a fundamental change that is happening today. We are going from this collective ownership in the form of shares in the new era of digital assets. And they can be native digital assets, which means they don't exist in any other form. It's just this token. It's just this cryptographic object, product of mathematics. And this is just one example, of course, Now we see the explosion of digital assets, the whole continuum, right? We started with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and then there were more cryptocurrencies, and there were a lot of different protocol tokens. Charles is creator of ADA. And now the second stage of this digital assets is coming up, and it's called tokenization. Tokenization is basically representation of real asset, physical asset, intellectual property right, through the token. And the ownership of this asset is transferred with a token in a global peer-to-peer way on the blockchain. The same way as Bitcoin travels, the same way the house, the company, gold, anything can travel, the same way the information travels today. This is the new era of how we're going to own things. And it might not be a ledger in the future. It might be all the different. Already today, you can actually have a chip in your hand. I know some people are doing this. This is where they wear everything they have, right? And we can't even imagine what shapes this will take in the next 5 to 10 years. But the change is fundamental. The change is that coming from physically controlled assets to collective ownership, later being substituted with electronic ownership, exchanges, right? Shares, everything. So now we're going into the space of tokenization. And if you ask yourself, but what is really the difference? Are those just those 3 days settlement that you have on exchange when the share is settled? Is it just faster and more efficient? And the answer is yes, but it's also because the ownership is transferred in a completely decentralized way, peer-to-peer. To transfer this ownership, no centralized organization is needed. And in fact, Ethereum became actually the largest investment bank. Ethereum was used to issue tokens representing some kind of ownership or participation in companies. Right? And this is why, so the way how ownership is transferred will change how our institutions work. We will go to digital representations of identities, to decentralized registries for land, for companies, for everything. And the ownership of all the digital assets will be transferred in a completely new way. And this how will define what? How we transfer ownership, how we gain access to assets will change what we own. So today, what do we own? Well, the lucky of us, we own a house, right? Some of you own shares, right? But we're gonna own, through tokenization, we're gonna own even more things that we could never own before, right? Because tokenization means fractional ownership. I can own something, a small participation in something. And I can prove that this is mine. and it enables better access to the whole range, right? Pictures, real estate, small fractions in venture capital, private equity companies. And if you think about it, especially venture capital or startups, if you look at the, this life cycle of the company, right? It starts with the startups, then it grows, venture capital starts to invest, then it goes into the hands of private equity, and somewhere up there at the end where there's low risk and low profitability, this is for public market. But I have a question for you. What is the difference between people who invest here when the company is just starting to grow and the people that invest in public offerings after IPO public shares? And the difference is, if you think about it, is that they have different access to different information. The VC guys, they know something that average people don't know. They have knowledge and expertise, and they have access to this knowledge. So the whole regulation in this space, who is allowed to invest in what, if you're a accredited investor, you're allowed to invest in early stage companies and take risks. But if you don't have money, you're not allowed. This is actually wrong. This whole regulation and institutions are built on the notion that we need a protection, that we don't know, right? Because the regulation and rules has been put in place some 30, 50 years ago, before internet. But internet changed this. Now anybody can research. I can look up who are the founders. I can find all the information. I can call them on Skype. We have access now, right? And this needs to be reflected in regulation and how we approach investment in companies and venture capital and private equity. So the question is here, why can't we use our knowledge, our expertise? Most of you, guys, most of you know something, right? I'm knowledgeable in finance. I worked for banks. Now I'm for 4 years in Bitcoin and blockchain space. You know about healthcare, you know about maybe logistics. All of us have the special knowledge. Why don't we put it to work? Why can't we access investments and things the way we want it to do it? And the answer is, yes, we can. We can because today we have not just access to information, this is internet. Because we now also received access to borderless capital, cryptocurrencies, money that can move around the world in a permissionless way. And there was an amazing man that saw this revolution coming. And he said, probably most of you know him. It's Milton Friedman, it's Nobel Prize economist. In 91, he said that with internet, the fundamental shift of power is happening. And the only thing that we are still missing is a digital money. But I'm sure that will be invented soon. He said this 20 years before Satoshi Nakamoto published a white paper called Digital Cash. And regretfully, he did not experience this revolution. He died before. But actually, this is exactly the most powerful thing that is going to change how we work, how we have access to capital and investments. And to those two fundamental things, internet and digital money, now we need to add one more. This one more is called digital ownership, internet of value, blockchain that enables assets of any kind to move frictionlessly around the globe between any of two people. The new era of digital assets. I think this is going to be the most powerful and fundamental shift in the balance of power between people and state, between institutions and communities, between startups and Wall Street. And this is why we're here. This is why I'm here. I think we have a chance to challenge them. This is what we're doing. And it's a huge, huge, huge opportunity. If you look at numbers, in fact, World Economic Forum said that in 10 years' time, around 10% of GDP will be stored on the blockchain, tokenized digital assets. If you think about it, well, in 10 years' time, I looked it up, projections, 150 trillion global GDP. 10% of this, 15 trillion. Is it much? Is it big? You need to put things into perspective. So what do we have? We have real estate. The value of real estate today is around 230 trillion. We have public equities, around 75 trillion. Gold, metals, all this is massive assets, right? Alternative investment industry, 15 trillion. So imagine even a fraction of those assets being tokenized and put on the blockchain. What will it do to the market capitalization of crypto assets, or what do we know today as a crypto market cap, which is just like 300 billion today? It will explode, and this is what Charles was also talking about. But the question is, how this transition will happen? How do we come from what we have now into this new space where everything is accessible? And here I also have an answer. Welcome to Smart Velour, the first marketplace for tokenized alternative investments. It is not going to be an easy journey, and it's not going to be an easy thing to do. But we started around a year ago, and we are moving along this vision of creating basically an Amazon for digital assets, where investing in any kind of digital asset is as simple and easy as buying a book on Amazon, right? Our vision is to open an access to a variety of assets, open access to wealth and assets to anybody, anywhere. It doesn't have to be only privileged and rich and people from Western world. The access can be given to anybody. And the great thing about it is through tokenization of assets, you can achieve a great diversification even with a small portfolio. You can have fractions of assets, a little bit of cryptocurrency, a little bit of real estate, or a little bit of venture capital fund. You can achieve the diversification which we previously, as I was part of UBS, would say, you need several millions to do that, right? Diversification is very important in achieving your investment goals. Also, you don't need a fortune, right? So you can do it with small money. You can follow your passion, because the assets that are going to be tokenized on our platforms, they will come from very non-traditional space, right? Music, art, intellectual property rights, everything can be tokenized. You can invest with passion. That's new. Well, you can do it yourself. You don't need an investment banker or wealth manager, right? This is anyways the biggest trend away from advisor-led model to self-directed investors. And you can access global opportunities. And with this, I think that we will, given the time and evolution of this space, we will be able to give millions of people without banking services, without access to all these great opportunities, a new way to have assets, real assets, sustainable assets, no matter where they are. And I'm very excited about it. Today is a very important day for us. Today, tomorrow in the press, we're going to announce the launch of Smart Velour platform. We're based here in Switzerland and in Liechtenstein. We launched the platform with 2 stages. The first is going to start this year with cryptocurrencies, security payment token, and utility tokens. We're going to be, in a sense, the first cryptocurrency and digital asset platform here in Switzerland and in Liechtenstein. We're going to talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. And the second stage is going to be beginning of the next year, when we extend the space of the tokens listed on our platform to security token. Venture capital funds, private shares in growth companies, real estate, and so on. It is going to be a very exciting journey, and I invite all of you to join Smart Velour. Join us today. Today is a special day. We are launching the early access program. This is targeted at basically people coming to us and helping us to build up the platform. There is a lot of new functionalities that needs to be put in place. We need a lot of feedback, what should work, how. We would appreciate suggestions about assets that we should list, syndication, ideas, all of this is we would like to build this platform together with you, community built investment platform. This is the way that blockchain-based platform needs to be put in place. Please come to our booth, talk to my team, they will be able to tell you more. There is a special offering to even get our own cryptocurrency for free. Just registering on our platform, go through KYC and you're on board. And we are taking up only 5,000 people, so I would really love to have you on board of this revolution. Thank you very much.